In response to launching of Sputnik by its Cold War adversary, the Soviet Union, the United States founded the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which led the United States side through its many achievements in the space race. For the next 30 years, NASA would play a diplomatic role in peace through space, as well as countless innovations that would impact everyday citizens while experimenting with advances in space. Rocketry has been used since the 13th century, but it was not further developed until World War II, when Germany saw it as a way to get around the Treaty of Versailles. But once they were defeated, the Soviet Union decided to make rocketry a military priority, which made a spark in the Cold War, which was a fight for supremacy between democracy and communism. Leading the democracy side is the USA. Leading the communist side is the Soviet Union. Both sides have great fear of each other becoming dominant. It was stated after the Bolshevik Revolution that communism and democracy can never live in a world together peacefully. That is why great embarrassment and fear fell upon the United States when the Soviet Union launched the first artificial satellite, Sputnik. This showed that the Soviet Union was ahead of the USA in space technology, and if the Soviet Union could launch Sputnik, they might also be able to launch intercontinental missiles. The US needs to launch rockets of their own to stay ahead of the Soviet Union. The US government chose the Navy to launch a satellite in 1955, which failed in 1957. The Army later launched the Explorer 1, January 31, 1959, but President Dwight D. Eisenhower had a different idea. He ordered a bill to be drafted to create a civilian space agency. This was not a simple bill. Creating a space agency separate from the armed forces introduced many questions like, should it be a new agency or should the tasks be given to an already existing agency? Should it include aeronautics? What should its state and international relations be like? After much consideration, the National Aeronautics and Space Act was signed July 19, 1958, which created NASA. NASA was originally going to be an agency, but the legislature decided to make it an administration, for they thought it would resemble more power. In the Act, there were 8 objectives, which were the driving forces for NASA. The overall picture of them are to expand human knowledge of the atmosphere and space, and to develop technology and vehicles to study the space and atmosphere for peace and all of mankind. NASA opened on October 1, 1958, and absorbed NACA, National Advisory Committee of Aeronautics, and got all of its employees an annual budget of $100 million, 3 research facilities, and 2 small test facilities. 10 days after opening, NASA launched its first spacecraft, Pioneer 1. Pioneer 1 was supposed to reach the moon, but it only got a ballistic trajectory and got readings from Earth near space. Even though a failure, it was NASA's first steps into space. Pioneer 4 escaped Earth's gravity and got 37,000 miles away from the lunar surface and failed to take a picture, and then became the furthest tracked object at the time. Pioneer 5 was launched for an interplanetary orbit and was originally going to go to Venus, but it switched to a solar flyby. Pioneer 5 provided the first map of the interplanetary magnetic fields. Pioneer 6, launched December 16, 1965, was the first in the Pioneer series to observe in depth the Sun's magnetic field, solar winds, cosmic winds, got the first data of the Sun's atmosphere, and passed through a comet's tail. NASA then started Project Mercury with a goal to see if humans can survive the harsh environment of space. The question was answered on May 5, 1961, when Alan B. Shepard Jr. became the first American in space. Then on February 20, 1962, John H. Glenn became the first U.S. astronaut in orbit around the Earth, and in only 6 flights, Project Mercury had achieved its goal. Project Gemini built upon Project Mercury to build spacecraft for 2. Project Gemini had 10 flights that had come back with data on weightlessness, re-entry, and splashdown procedures, and demonstrated rendezvous and docking in space. To show the usefulness of space launches and satellites, on April 1, 1960, Tyros 1 was launched and became a series of weather satellites, and on August 12, 1960, a communications satellite was launched. NASA had been keeping up with the USSR, but it needed something to launch themselves into first. John F. Kennedy saw the moon as an opportunity. In his speech, he gave a memorable quote, "Not because they are easy, but because they are hard," and said that America needed to get to the moon to keep space peaceful. To beat JFK's challenge, NASA started the Apollo project. On January 27, 1967, a fire started in an Apollo capsule and took the lives of astronauts Roger B. Chafe, Virgil Gus Bloom, and Edward H. White, Jr. In October 1968, NASA showed that they were going to get to the moon no matter what, for Apollo 7 orbited the Earth testing the new Apollo capsule. Then on December 24th to 25th, 1968, Apollo 8 orbited the moon and the crew read from Genesis. Neil A. Armstrong said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." On July 20th, 1969, with the Apollo 11 mission, NASA had finally finished Kennedy's challenge. America had put a man on the moon, and with steadfast direction of NASA, America had been launched into the lead of the space race. NASA took the innovations from the space exploration and put more use on them and made them help the lives of ordinary citizens. For instance, NASA decreased the amount of lives taken because of airplane crashes due to bad road climates. To prevent planes from slipping in the water and freezing on runways, NASA put grooves for excess water to drain out. This also helped friction between the airplane wheel and the runway. Another way NASA helped citizens was by making a special coating that made plastic 10 times more scratch resistant because they would no longer use glass because the Food and Drug Administration required lenses to be made of plastic. Another instance of NASA's invention is memory foam. Memory foam was originally made by NASA to be put in chairs in spacecraft and airplanes to lessen the impact of landings. The foam can be squashed to 10% of its original size and still go back to its original shape. NASA has also worked with a company called Diatec to make the ear thermometer. It uses infrared to measure the temperature of your ear canal, making it easier for temperatures to be taken quickly. Athletic shoes has been helped by NASA as well. The insole of the boot of a spacesuit was designed to provide circulation and spring into the step of the wearer. Athletic shoes companies have just used NASA's sole in their design. NASA has also invented the lightweight cordless power tools. They needed a drill that was lightweight and had no cord because that would be a hassle on the moon. They made a battery-powered motor and a whole machine to help them. Then, power tool companies used NASA's find to make their power tools. NASA has had a hand in many other things, such as the mouse, the smoke detector, water filters used in many homes today, and the extraction of landmines. NASA has also brought many countries together in friendship. One way was through the International Space Station collaborations between 15 countries: the US, Canada, Japan, Russia, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. The collaboration is to build the largest space station ever. The first piece was launched in 1998 and marked peace and friendship between all 15 countries. A Russian Orthodox priest gives a traditional blessing to those going to the station. Another way NASA promoted peace was the Outer Space Treaty, which states that exploration and use of outer space shall be used for the benefit of all countries and mankind, and that the moon and other celestial bodies shall be used for peace and only peaceful relations. No weapons of mass destruction may be put into orbit. This showed that NASA wanted peace and friendship through space. One other way NASA has a legacy is the development of space technology. The shuttle was the first reusable spacecraft and required much dedication from NASA to build. The design and concept of the shuttle was said to be an impossible feat. NASA's administrator, Charlie Bolden, said, "I think will be remembered in thousands of years, as perhaps the most incredible technological feat of humans of our time." Also, on the ISS, NASA used a 3D printer to make the first objects made in space. This allows for future missions to go on longer, being able to make objects in space. And NASA was able to make 3D printed engine parts that were able to stand up to the heat needed to be in a rocket engine. In 1958, NASA was created to lead America in the space race, which it achieved with great courage and dedication through its many achievements that culminated into putting a man on the moon. Finally, NASA came full circle and led the way to bolster international relations as it collaborated with not only Russia but 13 other countries to build the International Space Station.